Welcome back, everyone, to the Wedge 52 Gridiron podcast. I'm your host, Wedge. Today's episode will be the 10-minute report Colts. Before we jump into today's video, please make sure you guys click that follow button here on Spotify, as well as check me out on Instagram at Wedge52Gridiron. Tune into the past episodes, and then as well as to future episodes. I'm dropping a 10-minute report for a different NFL team every single day of July. If you guys are unfamiliar with the 10-minute report series, it is where I take 20 minutes of study plus my already established knowledge to create a 10-minute podcast. With that being said, let's jump into today's episode, the 10-minute report on the Indianapolis Colts. Starting off with the biggest move, the most eye-opening for the Colts during this offseason was drafting quarterback Anthony Richardson, number 4 overall out of Florida. The Indianapolis Colts have kind of been searching for a franchise quarterback for the past few years. They have been using the Band-Aid tactic the past couple of seasons by signing, veterans that are, past their prime and kind of on their way out of the league, really. By signing guys like Phillip Rivers, Matt Ryan, Nick Foles, Carson Wentz, some of those guys, Phillip Rivers, Matt Ryan, obviously have had great careers, exceptional quarterbacks, potential Hall of Fame guys. But, at the time they were Colts quarterbacks, they were not, top of the league. So they drafted Anthony Richardson this year. This is his stats from last season where he played in 12 games. He put up 2,550 yards, 17 touchdowns, and 9 interceptions on 53.8 completion percentage, as well as 650 rushing yards and 9 touchdowns on 6.3 yards per attempt. This was Anthony Richardson's first and only full year starting for Florida. He played 3 years in college, 1 year as a starter, which does raise some concerns about Anthony Richardson's experience and as well as his accuracy, and if he's going to be able to be worthy of that number 4 overall pick. So this is going to be definitely something that a lot of people are keeping their eyes on. The Colts development and coaching staff is really going to have a lot of things to work on in terms of, trying to see the accuracy jump that a couple of elite quarterbacks in the league today have, kind of had their second and third seasons in the league, namely Bills quarterback Josh Allen and Ravens quarterback Lamar Jackson. So the other quarterbacks on the roster that the Colts have is Sam Ehlinger, who in his career last year, his stats are 573 yards, 3 touchdowns, 3 interceptions, 0-3 as a starter in his 2 years in the league, as well as Gardner Minshew, who's, more of the potential candidate for the starting job, at least the beginning of the season, who has 4 seasons in the league, 6,600 yards, 44 touchdowns, and 15 interceptions. And then he is 8-16 quarterback record in the games that he has started. Minshew, obviously, if anyone remembers, Gardner Minshew has had flashes of, potentially being, a top half of the league. Maybe not quite that high, but a good starter in the league with Minshew Mania in Jacksonville, as long as some other good games that he's had outside of Jacksonville as a quarterback. He's played in some games for the Eagles. But it'll be interesting to see if the Colts decide to start most likely Minshew over Ehlinger. If it's going to be Minshew at the beginning of the season, or if they're just going to give Anthony Richardson the start from the get-go. Either way, unless, Minshew is, lighting it up the first half of the season, either way, we should definitely see Anthony Richardson play and start multiple games this season in 2023 here. He should have, Anthony Richardson should have confidence in his offensive line, as they are one of the better offensive lines in the league. That is mostly behind offensive lineman Quentin Nelson, who's been an absolute stud since he's entered his career. Right now, he's on pace to be Hall of Fame. He's only played 5 seasons, but if he continues to play like he's been and rack up the accomplishments he has, he will definitely be a Hall of Famer, potential even first ballot. Last season, Quentin Nelson gave up 5 sacks and had 5 penalties last year, which was considered a down year for Quentin Nelson. He's been in the league for 5 years and has been to 5 Pro Bowls. Now, say what you will about Pro Bowls, especially nowadays. When it's the 3 or 4 guys go and then 3 or 4, 1 or 2 of them don't, and then you get down to the 4th or 5th alternate, whatever. Say what you want about that. 5 years, 5 Pro Bowls. That's still good that he's going to every single one. And something more concrete and more valuable, way more valuable than Pro Bowls. He's been in the league for 5 years. In 3 seasons, he's been a first-team All-Pro, so one of the top 2 at his position. And 1 year, he was second-team All-Pro, so top 4 in his position. Quentin Nelson's a stud. They're looking for him to, quote-unquote, turn it around from his down year of still being one of the best in the league. They also have center Ryan Kelly, who's also been very good for them as well. Last year, he had 5 sacks and 3 penalties created on him. So definitely, Quentin Nelson, Ryan Kelly, definitely holding down that solid offensive line, as well as tackle Bernard Raymond, who, is a little younger, much younger than Kelly, but a little younger than Quentin Nelson. Fire up chips, Bernard Raymond. But, he has been a very solid starter for them as well out in Indy. And last year he gave up 7 sacks and created 9 flags. So behind those 3 guys, their offensive line is definitely a top-notch unit, which helped Jonathan Taylor. Last season he dealt with an ankle injury and only played in 11 games, but he was still able to have 861 yards and 4 touchdowns. The previous season, 2021, Jonathan Taylor was probably the best back in the league in 2021, leading the league in yards and touchdowns with 1,800 yards and 18 touchdowns, respectively. So that line and the Jonathan Taylor should definitely help out whoever the quarterback situation is and at least make their offense well-rounded. But they are going to have some struggles at wide receiver. Wide receivers on their roster that are notable right now is Michael Pittman Jr., Alec Pierce, Isaiah McKenzie, and North Carolina wide receiver who they drafted this year, Joshua Downs. I believe Pittman had 900 yards last year, and Pierce had maybe 500, and the rest were less than that. So they definitely have some question marks at receiver. But the rest of their offense, O-line, running back, very solid, in the top half of the league for both of those position groups. All of this will be behind new head coach Shane Steichen, who they acquired this offseason. Shane Steichen was the Eagles' offensive coordinator last season, and we all seen the Eagles were obviously in the Super Bowl. We all see the amount of development from Jalen Hurts to last season in comparison to the year prior. So the Colts have the potential, coaching staff and situation for a quarterback to be able to improve. So things are looking optimistic down in Indianapolis for their offense. And then in terms of defense, I kind of ran out of time during my study. But one thing I do know for sure is they need defensive backs help, especially at the safety position. I believe Isaiah Rodgers, who is a corner, I think he started quite a few games last season as a rookie, I believe, and did not perform well from what I've seen and from what I remember. But some positive comments about their defense. They're hoping to get linebacker Shaquille Leonard back into the starting rotation this season. He obviously missed all of last season because he had a back nerve injury that required surgery about June of last year, actually. And he's been out since. But his first 4 years in the league, prior to missing last season, he put up 120 plus tackles in each season, which is incredible. He was definitely, top 5 linebackers in the league before his back injury. Then they also have DeForest Buckner, who had 74 tackles and 8 sacks last year, as well as Kwity Paye, who had 45 tackles and 6 sacks. So those 2 guys, hopefully they get Leonard back to make it those 3 guys. Definitely provide, a solid start to a front 7 to hopefully, relieve some of the pressure off their secondary weakness. So that puts me at my 10-minute mark, which leaves me with just one thing remaining. And that is my record prediction for the 2023 Indianapolis Colts. I predict that they will go 4-13. That's all I have for the 10-minute report, Colts. Thank you guys for listening. Please make sure you check out my other 10-minute reports, as well as follow me here on Spotify and Instagram at Wedge52Gridiron. Go Ravens.